Welcome back. This is part 3 of my Dark Crystal review. Last time, Jen and Kira entered the castle, but were caught by Chamberlain. Jen was trapped beneath rubble, and Kira was given to the Skeksis. The scientist starts draining Kira's essence.
Kira, fight them!
Where the hell are they in relation to one another? How does he know what's going on? Agra, who has been locked up in the lab, encourages Kira.
You Kira, call the animals!
How does Agra know Kira can speak to animals? What is happening? The movie grants these characters knowledge they shouldn't have just so they can cheer on Kira's escape. It's bizarre. Kira calls the animals and they break free. They attack the scientist, causing him to accidentally turn off the machine and fall into the lava below.
In the arms of the angel.
That is convenient as fuck. If he didn't bump into the machine in just the right way, Kira is straight up dead, and the Skeksis win. Kira's escape is a bit of a clusterfuck. From the scientist's fiery death, we cut to one of the mystics spontaneously bursting into flames.
And here they are. Now we really begin to understand that they are, if not psychically connected, but also physically connected.
Post-essence drain, Kira appears noticeably haggard. We can see in her face the lingering impact of that terrible experience.
We did several costumes for Kira, and she starts off quite green, and then gradually as we were going through the movie, we pulled colour out, so it has less colour in it, but it's also distressed. We thought if she's gone through this adventure, things would have happened to it, so it's slightly worn. Kira is looking haggard there. We aged her face down a bit, because she's gone through a lot.
I love this attention to detail.
The great conjunction is at hand! Now the Skeksis will have power over the stars!
What does Agra mean by this? Well, we know that the crystal draws power from the sun, and that is what the Skeksis use to renew themselves. The Great Conjunction is the aligning of all 3 suns. Therefore, the power poured into the crystal will be greater than any seen in the last 1,000 years. If Jen and Kira can't stop them in time, the Skeksis will use this event to become infinitely more powerful. It makes me wonder why the General would be so concerned about draining Gelfling essence. It really won't matter soon. Perhaps we can chalk this up to Skeksis impatience? Then we cut to the Mystics, yet again to see them drawing closer to the castle. Brilliant. After a close encounter with the Gartham, Jen climbs into the lab, where a freed Agra points him in Kira's direction. Then Agra just sort of sits there, not doing anything. I mean, the crystal must be healed by a Gelfling, but that doesn't mean she can't help. You lazy bint. The Mystics reach the castle entrance, blocked by Gartham. They bellow a magic chant, and the Gartham let them through. Okay, now wait a fucking minute. The Mystics were intending to go to the castle the whole time? Then why didn't they go with Jen? He could have made a pit stop at Agra's to get the shard, and they'd all arrive together. And unlike Jen, they have an easy way to deal with the Gartham. Jen's whole journey could have been a whole lot easier. The Mystics are dicks. Jen finds the dark crystal. He hides when the Skeksis enter, and spots Kira doing the same across the room. Fizzgig starts barking, alerting the Skeksis to Kira's presence.
Stupid dog! You made me look bad!
Wouldn't the Skeksis have already known she escaped when they went to get the scientist? Shouldn't the Gartham already be swarming the castle looking for her? And I feel like Chamberlain definitely would have told the others about Jen, given the prophecy and all. Jen is spotted too, and the Gartham are summoned. He leaps onto the dark crystal, but drops the shard.
Butterfingers.
The general reaches for it, but Fizzgig bites his hand.
In the arms of the angel.
Kira glides down and snatches the shard, but is quickly surrounded. Did Kira forget she has wings? Maybe they're only for gliding and aren't capable of powered flight. Kira tosses Jen the shard, and the Skeksis kill her.
Jen.
I think this moment, above all others, proves that puppetry is a valid form of storytelling. Despite being made of plastic and felt, Kira feels like a real character, one shown to be caring and compassionate, making her sudden death all the more impactful. The camera lingers on her final moments of life, using the strength of the performance to give the scene emotional weight.
This is an important theme, which is sacrifice. She sacrificed herself for the good of the world.
Does this really constitute a theme of the movie? A single occurrence of sacrifice? Compare this to Avengers Infinity War, which has multiple characters' perspectives on whether sacrificing others for the greater good is justified. Sacrifice is definitely a theme of that movie. I don't think there's enough here to say the same. Also,
In the arms of the angel.
the Great Conjunction occurs, and unluckily for the Skeksis, they don't have any ranged weapons. In his grief and anger, Jen reunites the shard and the crystal. It turns from purple to white, purged of its evil. The Skeksis scramble around in panic, as all their evil appears to be undone by the crystal's magic. The Gartham fall to pieces. The dark stone of the castle crumbles away, revealing a white, crystalline structure, and the podlings regain their essence, becoming free of Skeksis control.
And then we have the opening into the sky, and which is a connection to the cosmos. The energy is going to go right through the crystal and should permeate the whole world. It heals the whole world.
I guess we can assume this is one of the crystal's original properties. When not corrupted, it's capable of great healing. Still, it feels like a convenience to quickly and cleanly wrap up the story without any loose ends. The Mystics enter and get in position around the crystal. The Skeksis just sort of stand around or pace back and forth. Why aren't they running away? In fact, not only do they not run away, they get in the exact positions the Mystics need them to for the following to occur. The crystal shines through them, and the Mystics and Skeksis merge. They become the Urskeks, though the movie doesn't name them. So not only did the Skeksis get in position around the crystal, they were all aligned with their proper counterparts. Maybe, like how the crystal called the Mystics, it forced the Skeksis into position. The crystal hasn't done anything like that before, but it is going so far as to undo the Skeksis evil, so... The movie needs the Skeksis in specific positions, and cheats to get them there. The Urskeks are beheld by Jen, who cradles Kira's body, as well as Agra, who arrives after saving a lucky Fizzgig.
What was sundered and undone shall be whole, the two made one.
The prophecy wasn't just talking about the crystal becoming whole again, but also the Skeksis and the Mystics. This explains the connections made between the two, from the parallels in narration to how they are physically linked. All was done to prepare for and build up to this moment.
Many ages ago, in our arrogance and delusion, we shattered the pure crystal, and our world split apart.
But the vision Jen saw in the shard showed a Skeksis cracking the crystal, not an Urskek. But if the shattering of the crystal coincided with the splitting of the Urskeks, this would be impossible. In the end, this doesn't really matter. The vision didn't influence anything, but it's still a weird mistake. What isn't stated in the Urskek's speech is what exactly they were trying to do that resulted in the crystal getting cracked.
These are the creatures that are, through best wishes of trying to split off the evil side of themselves, have caused havoc in the world. The fact that they couldn't face their shadow side caused problem.
That's a great explanation, but sadly it isn't in the movie. In the story, this is left ambiguous. The Urskeks restore Kira to life, making me question whether they're akin to gods. This is another thing that doesn't necessarily contradict anything, but feels too easy.
We leave you the crystal of truth. Make your world in its light.
They depart, leaving the future of the world in the hands of Jen and Kira. Now, would it have been helpful if they had stayed to oversee the renewal of the world, especially given that they're directly responsible for its decay? Yes, however, problems started when these beings from beyond meddled in something they weren't supposed to, and created a problem they couldn't fix. So maybe it's best that they leave and let the natural course of events unfold. The last shot is of a crystal castle among a world that has become green and good once more.
And here they are, moving on, leaving, I suppose, a Garden of Eden.
Looks like Jen and Kira are gonna be busy for a while, wink wink, nudge nudge. And that's the end.
I don't understand.
In terms of plot, the movie is a bit confusing. Let's start with this prophecy business. Where did it come from? Did it come from Agra? She does say,
Suns, moons, stars. That's how I know it's coming. How else can I make the prediction?
but I think she's only talking about predicting the Great Conjunction, hence the orrery and the talk of suns. Did it come from the mystics or the Skeksis? The Urskeks seem very knowledgeable, especially about the crystal. We could stretch this a little and say they possess some ability to predict the future. And if the Skeksis and mystics possess their memories, they could then create the prophecy. I don't imagine the Skeksis would want to spread around that information, so it would be left to the mystics to do so. Although, the mystics seem confined to their valley, and aren't in the habit of giving clear information, so that's also unlikely. Did it come from the Gelfling? It is written in the ruins of a Gelfling village, but how did they create it? As far as we know, they can't see into the future. The prophecy's origins are important, because it drives the whole story. It's what sets Jen out on his journey, and leads to the resolution. So its origins dictate how and why this has occurred. Various answers and issues come from this origin. For example, if the prophecy came from the mystics, it's even more strange that they tell Jen so little. But if it originated elsewhere, like with Agra, the mystics may be operating on limited knowledge themselves, so they can't tell Jen more. The movie's greatest strength is its world building. It alludes to a long history through the use of its narration and visuals.
Our world has all kinds of things in it already. There's a wonderful texture and depth to this world, and if you went to photograph it, you would shoot the main action, but in the background there would be all of this other sort of edges of things and parts of life that you don't know about, but it indicates a whole depth that's there. And so in creating the world, we had to sort of create all of that depth from the beginning. And so we went into a great deal more work than we probably needed to in order to have thought out the history of all of the people and the buildings and the plants. Very little of this ends up on the finished film, but we have to know it in order to believe this whole world, to get the entire thing working as a reality. And then even if we only show a small portion of it as part of this film, we're dealing with something that has substance.
When we started, Jim wanted to create a whole world. And we spent a long time in the early days just talking about what the world might be. And we discovered that in inventing the world showed it had an ancient history. I had to create shapes and forms that told you that it had been there for a long, long time.
And there was something very magical about Brian's work, is when you see it, it all has a sense of ancientness. It's worlds with millions of years behind them, and you really do believe it.
There's a lot of this world we invented that we never got around to seeing in it. This world is multi-leveled. I had to design a whole world, a world that you felt that it was a real world, that it had, in particular, a history, it had a past. I felt that everything you looked at had some symbols in and shapes that seemed to really specifically relate to this world, you felt that it was an ancient world.
This comes together to create a visually rich and complex world, one I was eager to see more of. The movie also uses dialogue to this effect. Lines from Agra imply ancient knowledge beyond the tidbits we're given.
1,000 years ago, there was a great conjunction. I was there.
Even some of the Skeksis dialogue works to imply backstory. For example,
Trial by stone.
Seems to be an old custom, used to resolve important disputes among the Skeksis. The movie thrives in its unique depiction of its natural world.
And he wanted the world to be alive, not just the characters. He wanted everything to be alive.
The Dark Crystal was kind of a doorway you could go through to be able to express creatively your ideas about the emotional qualities of all living things, whether they were living or not particularly what we consider as living.
There is an emphasis on the alienness of the environment. What helps distinguish this world from ours is the separation, or lack thereof, between what we understand to be animal, plant, and earth.
Everything in this world is alive. And are things trees? Is it plant? Or is it animal?
Dear God, what is that thing?